Welcome to Om Times TV, a division of Om Times Media and Broadcasting. Welcome to the Spheres of Spirit with Nancy Myers, aka the Lady of the Light. Nancy will discuss the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit which surrounds each of us, waiting to be discovered. She will share some of her remarkable orb photos, proving that our angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, and even pets surround us and guide us in our physical world. During this episode, Nancy will discuss one of the many spheres or aspects of spirit available to us based on her orb photography. She will also share a special channeled message from her guide, Leonini, and do an oracle card reading to help guide you along your personal spiritual adventure. And now, here is your host, orb photographer, author, medium, and speaker, Nancy Myers.
Hi, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today. And today, as you can see, I have a very special guest. I'd like to welcome my friend, my teacher, my mentor, and the woman responsible for me doing this work.
I think you are the woman responsible for doing your work.
No, welcome, Hollister Rand.
Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
No, thank you for joining me. You know, for those that don't know, Hollister was the very first medium that I went to after my son Robbie passed, and you all know about my son Robbie. And she said to me in a reading, "Do you know what orbs are?" And I said, "No." She said, "That's going to be your work with your son." And here we are today, 14 years later, and I'm still doing the work.
Has it been 14 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 14 years. And it's been such an incredible journey, Hollister. Um, with and you say 14 years, and they show me something new all the time.
Yes.
You know,
Actually, that is my prayer with spirit, is show me something new. Because I've been doing this work professionally for close to 30 years now, I think
wow.
it is. And I'm always in awe of how spirit chooses to show up for us. And I'm
Yeah.
always, what's next? What's new? As we expand and our consciousness expands, they can show us more. So we do our part of it, which is showing up, being willing to say yes to the interactions, and we will be shown more and more and more. It's never the end of the story.
It's not. And again, Robbie's come through and said, "Mom, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You have no idea what awaits you, But I'm on this path, Hollister, because of your reading, and you were so accurate and so sincere, and I knew you were talking to my son. And I said, if he came through to tell me that, okay, I'm going to do it. So I jumped in with both feet. And I'm so glad I did. But I think spirit arranged everything, and of me meeting you and the synchronicities that follow. But so thank you. And I've taken
Well,
many
it's
classes.
important that you mention synchronicity, because we can be started with a communication from spirit. But then we can be guided and know that we're on the path by the level of synchronicity that shows up in our lives. So that's important, even for mediums, because it's not as though I have spirit in my ear every moment of the day saying, take out the trash now, Hollister Rand, wear a purple shirt for your thing today. It's not that. It is really about what are the things that come together that you scratch your head and say, what is the likeliness of that? Those synchronicities in our lives are what let us know that we are aligned with spirit.
I agree with you. I tell people it's like when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, everything just is effortless and it falls into place and the doors fly open and you're where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be. Yeah. And it's quite fun.
Yes, absolutely. Fun is the operative word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Robbie's the one that told me he wanted me to do this podcast. So I said, okay. And I want to let my audience know today is my 50th show. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And it's been amazing. But I'll sit in meditation and I'll say, okay, Robbie, what am I going to talk about next time? And what he said was, Mom, talk about ghosts. So that's
I think wasn't he part of a spirit circle we did not too recently, and he talked with you about ghosts
yeah.
or dealing with ghosts?
Well, he told me that I was going to start capturing ghosts, that they would come. I think you told me come right out of the orbs. And I do have one picture that I'll share with everybody. But anyway, so that's why we're here, because among other things, you being a medium, a channel, a teacher, you also are an author. And you
Yes.
have two amazing books. The first, which really helped me a lot, and I recommend it to especially grieving parents. And I love the title of it. It's I'm Not Dead, I'm Different.
Yeah.
And in your second book, it's everything you wanted to know about the spirit world.
About the afterlife.
Afterlife.
Here it
I'm
is.
sorry.
That's okay.
But we're afraid to ask.
Right.
Yeah, I love that title. But you do have a whole chapter in there about your experience with ghosts. So that's kind of what we're going to concentrate on. But so that my audience gets to know you, can you tell us a little bit of your history of mediumship? And I know, not to steer you in any one direction, but I know you said at an early age you could tell the difference between a ghost and a spirit. So would you go into
Yeah.
that a
Well,
little?
first of all, early on in my life, I didn't know what death was. I couldn't understand when my grandfather died and family members, and I was young at the time, and family members said, he is in heaven. We've had to say goodbye to him. And of course, I was so young, I didn't go to the funeral or anything like that. But I didn't understand what they were talking about because my grandfather was at the foot of my bed every night. So and sometimes he would kiss me at night.
Oh, how
I
old
thought,
were you?
well, wait a minute. I was really confused by that. You're saying he's someplace else, but he's with me.
And how old
And
were you when this was going on?
I would have to look up the dates, but 5 to 7.
Oh,
I
wow.
was
Okay.
young.
And
was
there was
young.
no fear of him sitting on your bed.
No, this is the thing about kids. Kids will often have interactions with spirit, and there are a lot of imaginary friends and things like that. And kids don't understand to be afraid because it can just, if especially if it's someone they know, like their grandfather whom they loved,
True.
And then one night my grandfather showed up with another spirit, a young boy, who told me his name, and I mentioned that to my mother, and later on found out that that was her brother who had died at the age of 5.
And you didn't know that.
Of course, I didn't know that. And I also received the message that we don't talk about that. So that was an early life, kind of thing. Because, I'm 66 years old. When I was young, 60 years old, this was not a thing. This is now a thing.
Yeah.
And so kids are allowed to see spirits. Sometimes they're even encouraged. They don't shut down thinking that there's something wrong with this. Spirits are included in people's lives. And I'm very happy to see that after all these years working as a medium and working hard to bring professionalism
Yes.
to the work so that we would be taken seriously. But when I was starting out, the entree was often ghosts. It was ghost stories. It was Halloween. It was Hans Holzer. It was all of the ghost stories.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by it, historical ghosts, because I thought, does this explain what is going on with me? I was always, and still am, looking for scientific and metaphysical explanations of why I am the way I am and what makes me different. And am I really different? Or do all of us have this capacity, which I've come to really believe is true, that
Yeah.
we all have the capacity to connect with consciousness that does not exist in a physical body on this plane. But ghosts were my way through because the energy is dense. The energy is closest to the earth, and they will often walk the earth. So ghosts are the most accessible spirits to a newcomer, but not always the nicest spirits of the universe. And that's what I came to understand.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that. But going back to when you were a child and experiencing this, were you the only one in your family then? Did you have
I
no one?
don't think so, but I was apparently the only one who mentioned it. I do think my mother was extraordinarily psychic, and I write about this. My mother was a school teacher, and she used to say, I have eyes in the back of my head. I mean, I think she struck fear in the hearts of 4th graders because she knew what was going on without
see.
ever turning away from the blackboard. So that was my mother. She would call up and she would say, don't eat my Malamars, as I had my hand in the cookie jar.
Wow.
So I definitely inherited this from my mother's side of the family.
Okay. But it was not something talked about openly. Was your
No.
family religious?
I did grow up in the Episcopal Church, and I
Ah.
went to Catholic school.
Okay.
And when my cousin Tommy killed himself at the age of 19,
Mm.
my aunt, his mother, moved into a full-blown interest in spirit communication. And I realize now that just as ghosts can be the entree for sensitive people to connect with spirit first,
Yeah.
grief is often the way that people move in to spirit communication.
Exactly.
And so that's where my life converged. I developed that sensitivity, but then began to move into the idea of, not just connecting with ghosts who aren't the nicest, but connecting at the frequency of love and working with healing with people who are heartbroken. So that was the big shift for me.
I see. And I can vouch that, I mean, you helped bring out my abilities through all your workshops and classes that I took that I never thought I had. But again, it was the loss of my son that was the catalyst. And like you, I was always fascinated with the ghosts and the spirit communication, never thinking that I had any talent, but we all do, I think, you
Yeah,
know.
so everybody listening, take note.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, this is not the purview of the few. I mean, there's a call out now from spirit because for every one of us that is connected to spirit, we provide them their wisdom, their love, their higher frequencies, a place on this earth, which is very much needed right now.
Mm.
So every single one of us, it's like we're sitting at a banquet table and we put down a little name tag for a spirit and we give them a place at the table. And that's a really powerful thing.
And that's to bring in their help and their wisdom and their
Yes.
guidance, right?
Yes. And to bring those higher level frequencies, love and above,
Yeah.
those higher level frequencies and giving them a place here at the banquet of life. Very important right now.
And I know this is a little off topic, but I also think that's why all of a sudden there's an explosion of channelers and the messages that are coming in are so incredible
Yes.
because we're at a place um, to
Of
receive
great
it.
transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so back to ghosts. So early on, I think I read something that you said you knew the difference between a ghost and, like, say, your grandfather. So you were seeing people or apparitions you didn't know even at a young age.
Correct. As a child, I then developed a fear, a stranger danger fear,
Mm.
because there were entities that I did not know coming up the stairs at night. I mean, I slept with the light on, so I started seeing things that were unfamiliar. And that was not a happy time in my life. So
Oh,
I did the best I could to shut down my sensitivities and was reasonably successful with that until I was in a car accident where I had a severe head injury. And then I could no longer turn off the spirits again. And then I had to face managing it. What do I do with this? How do I deal with this? And so I developed my abilities. I moved to California. I connected with other mediums and psychics, and got into the whole world of this,
yeah.
and loved it. Loved my years of supporting other mediums and sitting in development circles, and just loved all of it. And it was during that period where I was surrounded by other mediums that I started moving into ghost busting, hauntings, people showing up, like, a guy, a young couple called a person I was involved with at the time who was doing ghost busting, and we both went out to this call. But it was a young woman who would have sex with her boyfriend, and then they would look in the corner of the bedroom, and there would be this bald guy looking at them going, "What are you doing here?"
And they both could
Turns
see him.
out he had died there in that apartment, didn't realize he was gone, and was wondering, who are these invaders? But their energy together allowed him to manifest. So it was a whole thing. So that was that
Wow.
was really kind of a shocking thing. And then there were other very unfriendly spirits in houses that were being renovated. There was one in Beverly Hills that was a problem, and there was a spirit, an entity, a ghost that wasn't leaving. Well, it turns out there was a murder there as well. So it was really, I went to a theater at the behest of some ghost busting people who wanted me to see what I could feel. And wow, I remember being overwhelmed and saying to the young woman who was doing these paranormal investigations and filming them and stuff, I said, you've got to really protect yourself here, because this energy can be very detrimental. And she did end up having health issues.
Wow.
That kind of dense, difficult, angry energy coming at you all the time can have an effect. So I learned that I did not want to be part of that world, that I wanted to connect at a healing place, at a place of love. And there are people, God bless them, in this world, mediums whose purpose is to move people forward who don't know that they're dead. And I discovered that after 9/11, when that tragedy happened. And a group of mediums and I did a little prayer service and were amazed to find people who did not realize that they had died.
Really?
And they had gone so quickly. Their bodies were immolated. They, you know how you hear people saying, I died, I lifted above my body, I looked down,
Yeah.
there's my body, I'm separate from my body. These were people we saw still sitting at their desks. They didn't even realize what had happened. It was almost like odd suspended animation.
That's so interesting, because so part of being a ghost is either realizing then that you're not dead, or
Yeah,
two.
there was a medium who sat in one of my development circles, and his father-in-law was a mail carrier. And one day when he was out delivering mail, he dropped dead. And he showed up to this guy who was in my circle, and he says, they're all telling me I'm dead, but I don't trust them. I want to hear you tell me I'm dead,
Wow.
because you can see me. And he goes, yeah, I can see you, and you're dead. So,
And then what happened? Did he then
and
go
then he
into the
moved forward.
proverbial light?
Yeah, he went with the people who were trying to escort him. So there is this, there's so much free choice here in our lives and in the universe. And there are some who, because of the way they have died, are not moving forward because they don't want to believe it, or it happened in a way they didn't expect, or, there's all of that, but there's always help. This is what I want people to know, is no one is abandoned here.
Right.
It's not as like people are wandering the earth and they're being ignored. But one of the signs of the difference between a haunting and a spirit and ghost is a spirit and ghost, interact with you as a medium. A haunting just goes on like you're watching a movie. As a sensitive and as a medium, you can watch it. And this happened in my own house with a medium who was sleeping on my sofa. I had gone into bed, and this guy was sleeping on my sofa. And he told me the next morning, he goes, you're not going to believe this. I looked up in your loft, and there was a woman in a polka dot dress on a train station platform kissing a guy who was getting on the train, and she was dressed in 40s stuff. And they weren't paying any attention to me. And I felt like I was watching a movie from the 40s. I went, oh yeah, I've seen them.
Really?
And yeah, so I had seen that same thing played out. Now I live next to a cemetery, by the way.
Of course you do.
And so it occurred to me, and I don't think I'm wrong about this. There is an aviation historic monument over there. And my feeling was that this was a woman kissing a pilot who was heading off to war. I would not be surprised if that pilot is buried or has a memorial plaque over in that, portal of the folded wings thing that's next to my house.
So you don't think your home is built on an old railroad platform?
My house is built on over an underground spring in what used to be a sacred sycamore grove. And some of the sycamores are still live on the property.
So do you have First American activity there?
Always, but that is more because I'm a medium.
Ah.
And if you look at early spiritualism, often the guides and the controls for mediums were native. And this is, of course, because it's their spiritual imprint on this land.
Right.
And so any time that we are entering, working with spirit and on this land, we are including native influence and shamanism. I mean, it's just part of it. But in early spiritualism, there are a lot of representations of natives who were controls, guides, protectors of early mediums.
Wow, fascinating. I just want to real quick give a shout out to people. They said hello. Dee Dee, hi, thanks for joining us. And Alicia, thank you for being here. So one of my questions was, okay, so if people are reluctant to leave their house and the house is torn down or, the land is changed.
I would say it's a crisis of faith, but let me give you a little bit of an example here.
Okay.
Recently, I was staying in a friend's house. It was built in the early 1900s. And I was walking up the stairs one night and I thought, oh, there's someone here. And I didn't think much about it till I came down in the middle of the night, down the same staircase, and there at the foot of the stairs, I could hardly walk. I'm getting chills as I say this. I could hardly walk through into the foyer area where the front door was because the energy was so dense. And I went, okay, this feels like a historic person. Not like a friend or a relative or a guide or an angel. This feels like someone who owns this home and is standing at the front door in the foyer at the foot of the stairs. So I let it go. Next night, I'm coming down the stairs to let the dog out. The dog stops in the middle of the stairs and just stares down at the foyer area. And I thought, okay, something's got to be done here. Now I can't even get the dog outside to go to the bathroom. So I picked him up. We went out and I invited a medium friend of mine over to the house and, let him know I think we have a spirit here. Didn't say much more. Didn't tell him where. Right there, foot of the stairs, foyer. He's like, oof. Yeah, this is a historic spirit, belongs to this house, this era. And, wow, there's sort of ownership.
That's
now, neither
confirmation.
Of us felt any kind of nastiness. Neither of us felt any kind of challenge or, that we were going to be hurt or there was none of that. There was no ill intent whatsoever. That night when I went to bed, I dreamt of a woman walking down those stairs. I thanked her in my dream for being there, for watching out for the house, for the inhabitants, for the dog, for me, but that she did not need to worry about us. We were fine. The next morning, she was gone.
Wow.
Now, what was intriguing to me about this was that house had just gone through a renovation. And the
Do you
other
think it
interesting
stirred
thing
it up
is,
or?
a historical renovation. So in other words, it was all new on the inside, but in keeping with the time frame.
Oh, they put it back.
So the house was different, but the energy was the same. So that's what I would say is things can change on the earth, but the spirit can still be attached to what was there before.
Yeah.
And we will see that with, historical places. There may be ghosts that have nothing to do with the office building, but are walking the floors of the office building or the hotel that's on the space.
That's so interesting. I happened to stay overnight. A friend of mine owns a historical home up in Monterey. And I spent the night there and I had the most vivid dream of this man dressed in a uniform with a sidearm iron, pistol, and he pulled it out and he shot somebody. And I could see his face. Well, then I got up in the morning and I said, this is who I saw. And she pulled out the historical book and it was the one of the original owner's son.
Right.
So he was still there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so that energy, I
That's
mean, I
what
didn't
I'm
have
saying.
any
So this
connection.
house had been through a renovation And then the other interesting thing was the friend who owns the house talked to one of her neighbors, and the neighbor said, "Oh yeah, we have a woman in our house too, and my kids don't even want to go to sleep in their bedroom." And I'm wondering whether this lady is just haunting the whole block. But I mean, not
Yeah.
haunting, but
Yeah.
if she, because all of these houses were built at the same time. So it's really interesting to me that it might be a block party of entities from that time frame.
And it could have been
Fascinating
all
to me.
her original land, right?
Might have been all of her, who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't researched her, and I may,
Yeah.
but she was fine once I acknowledged her. Once there was the "I see you, thank you, your help is not needed right now, we are okay," gone. Sometimes just an acknowledgement is enough.
So when she goes, did she go to the light, or could she come
That
back
I
to
don't
somebody
know,
else?
but I would think that by saying that, by giving people permission to let go, to not
Ah,
have to be in charge, to not have to live a purpose that they may have made a vow. I will always protect this land.
sure.
I will always love this home. I will always be the protector of everybody in this home. What begins to happen is those vows shake a little bit. They're not as firm. There maybe is the possibility of a different way of living.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that a little more. We have to take our commercial break here. And when we come back, I want to talk about your physical interaction with some of these ghosts. And then I have some more questions about the difference between ghosts and spirits. So we'll be right back.
Times TV. The story told in Entering the Light Fantastic, Discovering Life After Life Through Orbs, is about Nancy Meyer's spiritual and emotional rising from the devastating ashes of loss caused by the sudden and unexpected passing of her son Robbie. Just like the legend of the reborn phoenix, Nancy's life purpose and focus was transformed. With the help from her son in spirit, Nancy found herself providing proof through orbs that our souls do not die with our bodies. In her second book, Encircled by the Light Fantastic, A Deeper Journey into the Light with Orbs, Nancy continues chronicling her path of gaining spiritual knowledge and expanding acceptance of what is possible, while traveling to many sacred and ancient sites around the world. She shares these experiences with you along with her photographs of remarkable spirit encounters. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, mijo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Okay, and we're back. And I wanted to start now. Hollister sees ghosts or people. I capture them sometimes in the orbs. Sometimes I know the people, or the people are there for my sitter. Sometimes they just show up. There is a face in this. If you go to my website, you can look at this a little more carefully. But the quote that I put is paired up with this is, apparitions are often confused with hauntings. The difference is that apparitions are live, in other words, intelligent consciousness, and hauntings are recordings. And that's Lloyd Auerbach, and we're going to talk more about that. So thank you, Chris. So we mentioned earlier that, you know, the loop, the kinds, the hauntings, but you also said that ghosts sometimes are not very nice
Correct.
people.
So now apparitions and hauntings. So the way I look at this is, can I communicate with this entity? Then it's not a haunting. You know, it's not. So the haunting, these recordings, as I said, I can't communicate with the lady in the red polka dot dress on the, you know, train platform in my loft. And neither could my other friend who was a medium sleeping on my sofa. She didn't notice us. We were just watching this happen.
Wow.
So that's like, it's like a recording. That's
But
exactly what it's like. But apparitions, ghosts, and spirits of all kinds. So ghosts are spirits, but not all spirits are ghosts. And so there are angels, there are loved ones in spirit. I have aligned myself at the frequency of love with spirits at that frequency. Ghosts, I don't see at that frequency. So those are often earth-based ghosts, and we'll talk about some of the differences.
okay. You know, that's interesting because before I do my orb photography, I always say, you know, I want to do work for the highest good from the highest good, because otherwise the floodgates could open up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But you have had some experience with ghosts feeling them, or them picking on you, right?
Yes. So there's a difference between a spirit being affected by a spirit and being affected by a ghost. I was once on an island on the compound where a very wealthy, famous guy used to live. And I was there with a bunch of other mediums. And we went to his living quarters. I could barely get up the stairs to the second floor. It felt like I had hands pushing me down, you know, like, oh, I can't. I mean, it was so dense and so hard, and you could feel him everywhere. Well, I took a piece of wallpaper that had peeled off the wall in, I guess, the bedroom area or whatever, and brought it to a mediumship development class that I was teaching. And I didn't tell people who it belonged to. And people in the group held this and described this guy to a T. People who
Wow.
hadn't been on this trip with me, you know, but his energy was so present with this that people who didn't even think they could communicate with spirit. So he was a ghost, also a spirit, but a ghost whose presence was very present in this place that he loved.
So he just, we have free will then when we pass, if we're going to stay or if we're going to move to the higher realms. Yes?
Yes. And there are mediums who work with people to help them let go. And really kudos to them, because that is not, you know, ghost whisperer type people. Do you know what I'm
Sure.
saying? Not the easiest job on the planet, and not one that I have been willing to take on, because I have actually had words written. I had the word, I think it was rats, RATS, written on my leg in raised letters. So I have been branded in a sense.
Wow.
So Yeah, of course, it's no longer there. But that was the moment at which I said, I am no longer doing this.
I
This
don't
is
blame you.
not where I belong.
Yeah,
That's workplace harassment. Thank
yeah.
you very much. Yeah.
Run, don't walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So, I had a friend real quickly. She was a medium, but she was a bartender. And so some of the ghosts or
Oh,
souls who I know
woo.
who don't want to leave. I hear
Correct.
some are addicts or some are just not nice people or they
Correct.
think they
And
don't
they
want to
will
go.
align themselves with drinkers and other addicts to experience that.
Yeah, she said
So
the patron would walk in,
you
start
could see them
drinking.
attached to them.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and their whole
Yeah.
personality changed, and
Yeah.
it was like but I found that so interesting that spirit could still get that high, if you will.
Well, it's because there is holes develop in our aura, when we have an addiction or that kind of thing. And so it's a shared energy. That's what begins to, it's like trance. So when I do trance, I set myself aside and allow a spirit to use my physicality to express him or herself. So it's a bit like trance. You can go into spontaneous trance with flashing lights, like on one of those disco balls, and with drink there can be fissures and holes in your protective
Yeah,
energy field. And when someone drinks and you say, God, he's just not himself. He's just not himself. And that's what I would say. Yeah.
true.
So I don't hang out in bars.
Yeah. I don't either. In fact, spirit said, "You're not drinking anymore," so now I'm
Right.
almost allergic to it. I
Yeah.
can't drink, and
Yep.
I so
Yep.
enjoyed it. But, I was gonna ask you a question about, they're not stuck there forever. And, how long can they be here? And I have one quick story. I capture the faces in the orbs. And when I was in Scotland, there was a crypt of this man who died 600 years ago. His name escapes me right now. And I took a picture and he's in the orb. So was he still stuck here? I don't think
All
so.
right. Let's let go of the idea of stuck, and I'll tell
Okay.
you why.
Okay.
I had an operation on my ankle and was recovering at a friend's house, and she lived in a castle, I kid you not, that was built for a silent film actress, I believe in the 20s. So it was a historical house. In the middle of the night, a guy shows up floating in the ocean holding a piece of wood. And it turns out, I don't know whether this is World War I or World War II. I'm still not clear on this. His boat was blown up and he's floating on this ocean. And I asked him, how long have you been here? This is why I don't even know which World War this was. And he said, oh, our ship went down yesterday. There is literally no sense of time. There is no sense with these people that they're stuck anywhere. So let's let go of the fear that we may carry around people being stuck.
Okay.
It doesn't have, spirits live in the eternal present moment. Everything past, present, future exists at the same moment in time. This is why we don't have to worry about our loved ones waiting for us.
Sure.
They're not going to get impatient. Well, geez, when are you going to die? When are you going to join me? I think I might go do something else as I'm waiting for you. Tick, tick, tick. There isn't that. Okay. There is the idea of connection and being in the present. So this guy thought, oh, it's nighttime or whatever. So it must have been yesterday that this happened. It blew me away when I connected with him.
So I'm a little confused and trying to. So you hear so many near death experiences.
Yes.
Where the people leave their bodies and they're almost drawn to the light.
Right.
Automatically. They have
yes.
But so what happens? Like the guy floating in the ocean. Why wasn't he drawn to the light immediately?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't. But who's to say that the light is not a bad thing if your boat is getting blown up in the ocean? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If depending on the circumstances of someone's passing, the light is not always a welcome thing. It could be a fire on a boat. It could be a searchlight. It could be a whole lot of things that speak danger.
So he
that's
is
what I would
chosen
say.
not to go to it.
Correct.
Okay.
So, but what I will say again and again and again is no one dies alone. So he was the only one that I saw. It wasn't like I saw hundreds of guys floating around him, which means that others had moved forward.
Sure.
So, and that's possible for him as well. We do not have to be in pain for those who have not moved on, because be assured that the hand is always there saying, come, let's go. And that's why I'm saying there are mediums whose work is that. And every time we as mediums work at that frequency of love, and every time we give high-level spirits a place on earth, we are bookending these spirits with light from both sides, all sides. Do you understand? And that also helps. When that light is present here on the earth, it helps lift everybody. So that's why I knew that by doing what I do and bringing healing to people who have lost people they love, I was also helping these other people.
Oh, okay.
Because where there is light, there is lifting. Where there is, love, and where we bring that to this planet, it lifts everybody. And
Yeah.
it allows people to change their minds, and it allows fear to dissipate.
And it's like I read, the angels, spirit, they never give up on us, no matter how
Never.
long it takes.
Never.
Can I ask you a quick question? So you were in the living room of this historic house. What was the guy in the ocean's connection?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if
I
he.
don't know whether he was connected to the house, to the woman who owned the house, to the family, my friend's family. I literally I was just home from the hospital with my leg in this thing, and and not able to sleep, and there I am, open my eyes, and there he is. Well, hello. Yeah. So I do not have a clue.
Okay.
I think he might have been just as shocked to see me as I was to see him.
Well, it's interesting. Are spirits ever shocked to be talking to you? Like this guy in the ocean. Oh, I'm talking to this lady
Yeah,
in
it's
this
like,
living
oh,
room.
she sees me.
Yeah.
That is, I will sometimes hear spirits talking to each other,
Oh.
and they'll say, oh, she sees me. She sees us. And they'll test to see if I can hear them. Now, this also happens with loved ones in spirit. So yesterday, the day before, I had an in-person session with a lady, and this whole family showed up. Her mother, her grandmother, her father, and then a young man. I said, there's a young man who steps out from the group, and it's her son.
Oh.
And the grandfather in the back was like looking at everybody. Can she hear us? I mean, I thought, oh my God,
Fascinating.
yes, I can hear you and
Yeah.
I can see you. And it's so interesting to me. It's kind of like when we get on here, we test the mic. Can you see me? Can you hear me? It's so much like a seance. We kind of test, oh, she can see us. The camera's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a hot mic moment.
Yeah, a hot mic moment. That's exactly right.
Well, that's funny. Well, at the end of that chapter in your book, you kind of give 4 differences between ghosts and spirits. So I wanted to go through that real quick. So you first said ghosts can be demanding. Spirits are respectful.
Correct. So at the frequency of divine love at which I work, it is a work of mutual respect. And where I find the healing so profound with that is if there is someone in spirit with whom you've had a difficult relationship or even an abusive one, whether it's, due to alcoholism, drug addiction, sexual abuse, narcissistic personality disorder, whatever it may be. If that spirit communicates with me, there's been a change of heart. There's been a healing on their end.
Gotcha.
And it allows the connection to take place. That's very powerful. Now, with ghosts, there isn't necessarily that respect. So this lady at the bottom of the stairs, she didn't say, "Excuse me, may I speak with you? I'm here, my house, my job to oversee everything. You've got a dog? Oh, well, good luck getting him past me." You know what I'm saying? There's a
Almost a
this
belligerence.
is my place.
Yeah.
You're in my world. It's different from mutual respect, collaboration,
Yeah.
moving toward healing, love and above, love, hope, healing, enlightenment. It's a very different energy.
Okay. So the second thing is you said ghosts hang on to grievances and anger, and spirits take responsibility for their actions.
Correct. So let's just take the guy floating, in the, who knows what his last thoughts are? You blankety blank blanks, whatever, and involved in a work of hatred and mutual destruction at the time of his death.
Yeah.
So that's a very intense energy. When I was a child, my parents took me to Gettysburg. I think I was
I've been
10
there.
at the time.
I've been there.
And they had to remove me from the battlefield
Yeah.
because I couldn't take it. All right. That energy of that, whether it's hauntings, whether it is ghosts,
Fear.
that anger, that grievance, that, the war should have ended differently, or, whatever all of that is that's going on, I should have killed you, but you got me. Those grievances.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of times it's the soul's decision to remain here, not anybody else's. And
Oh,
until
it absolutely isn't
Yeah.
anyone else's.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing.
Yeah.
We all hold the keys to our own freedom.
Right.
We think someone else has put the shackles on us.
Yeah.
We have put them on ourselves.
Exactly.
There is a Buddhist belief that your last thought in life determines where you end up in afterlife. So it's very important to guard your thoughts and to practice dying. I mean, I think
Wow.
that's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Practice good thoughts. Like, you step off a curb and you think, oh, I could be hit by that bus. Love and light. I love my life. I love spirit. I have an open heart, right?
I love the bus.
I love the bus.
Yeah.
Yes, I would not want this bus driver to have that on his heart. All of those, right?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
But what I'm finding out too, though, Hollister, is even if we die with those thoughts, it's still not too late.
It's
right?
never too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It's
is
never too late.
never, ever too late for
Yeah.
change. Death is the great transformer. There's a reason why it is called that.
Yeah.
And sometimes there was a young man that I spoke with. It was an in-person session just a few days ago. And he had an addiction he could not beat on this earth plane. And what he let his parent know was that his healing came with the transformation of death.
Wow.
That he is no longer an addict. It is not in his aura anymore, in his energy. And it turns out that there were generations of addicts, different kinds of addicts in this family, but all addicts of some sort, whether it was alcoholism, drug addiction, other addictive behaviors, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And he was offering healing for the entire family line, including a sister still here on this earth plane and others still living on the earth.
Wow, that's fascinating. There were two more that you talked about. You said ghosts are resistant to change. We kind of talked about that. But the fourth one, you said ghosts are energized by fear and
Yes,
spirits are powered by love. And I thought
right.
that was powerful, the way
And
you
that's what we
define that.
talked about, even with this guy on the, floating on the ocean. That what allowed him for, even if it's World War II. I mean, how that fear around the U-boats or that, do
Sure.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All of that fear. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, ghosts can feed off our fear as well.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
the other thing. It's not just their fear of change or their fear around the time they died. It's also our fear of encountering them, that kind of thing, which is why Halloween is such a dicey holiday,
Yeah.
because we almost engender that fear.
Oh, absolutely. And so does Hollywood.
Yes, yes. Yeah, which is
So
why I don't watch horror films. I cannot take
I
it.
can't either. I
No.
can't either. So,
Yeah.
before I channel my guide and I always share a message, but I want people to know how to reach you and what's coming up for Hollister Rand, and to thank you for this time. What a fascinating subject. I mean, I could do a whole nother show on it because I
Oh,
have a
I
whole list
said, do
of
we have
questions.
10 hours here?
I know.
Because,
I'll have you back.
yeah. I mean, well, I just love what I do. I just love it.
It
And
shows.
I just got back from doing some events in Santa Barbara. My next events in person will be on Long Island in June. People can go to hollisterrand.com events, sign up for my mailing list. And I have virtual spirit circles. In fact, there's a spirit circle on Sunday, a Memorial Weekend spirit circle, and there are 2 tickets left. So
Oh,
people can go to hollisterrand.com events, or contact me at hollisterrand@gmail, and I'll send you a link. But 2 tickets left to a virtual spirit circle.
okay.
So I do things in person and online sessions as well.
And I highly, highly recommend Hollister's readings.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, it changed my life for the better. So I have time. I don't have time for an oracle card reading today, but I wanted to share this message from my guide because this was done in 2020, and I was at a low point in my life of feeling helpless, of how do little old me change the world? What can I do? And this is the message that I got back, and I thought it was a good time to share it. And she said, in order to find peace, be peaceful. In order to be loved, give love. In order to find joy, be joyful. In order to be healed, be the healer. In order to learn, be the teacher. In order to be helped, give help. In order to walk hand in hand, reach. In order to be fed, feed. In order to mend, sew. In order to be supported, support. In order to reach divinity, be divine. In order to dispel darkness, be light. In order to find harmony, sing the praises of others. And in order to rise, awaken. So I thought that was powerful, so I wanted to share that today. Hollister, you were right. We filled up the hour. We're going to do this again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a delight.
Oh, it was my pleasure, believe me.
Bye,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.